Namaste guys, Tristan Arlong, Life Enhancement Consultant, giving you a big and beautiful shout out on this Sunday afternoon. You might be saying to yourself, wait a minute, Christian doesn't seem to be in his normal, typical place that he does his live streams on Sundays. He usually is at Einstein Bagels, stuffing his fat mouth with some kind of bagel or some kind of delicious coffee drink. Adriana, Atma Namaste, Mital, Atma Namaste. But in fact, what I am is not in Colorado. I'm not in Mountain Time. I'm actually in Florida, Eastern Standard Time. And I'm here visiting some family. Jessica, Atma Namaste. So, there's an old saying, an old quote by the spiritual teacher Ram Dass, who's actually a professor at Harvard, Josiah, Atma Namaste, who ended up becoming a great spiritual teacher. And he wrote several books, one of them being Be Here Now. Meanie, Atma Namaste. Paula, Atma Namaste. And one of the quotes from this teacher, Ram Dass, was, if you think you're enlightened, Salvador, Atma Namaste, spend the week with your family. If you think you're enlightened, spend the week with your family. So what does that mean? So when we're born into our family, we have very specific karma and karmas that we want to work out. Experiences we want to have, lessons that we want to learn. And by spending time with your family, whether as a child, a teenager, a young adult, or as an adult, you're going to have some realizations of some blind spots, sticking points that you might not have experience or exposure to with other people in your life. So I think that's such a beautiful quote, that if you think you're enlightened, meaning if you think you're holier than thou, if you think you have worked out all of your karma, if you think that nothing can disrupt your inner peace, inner stillness, and inner bliss, that will really be tested. Megan, Atma Namaste. That will really be tested when you're spending time with your family. So I'm actually out here visiting my mother, who I haven't seen in about 4 years. I talk to her probably once a month or so. And I'm out here visiting my son, Gabriel, who's 13 years old. Ellie, Atma Namaste. Good to have you on. And how do I put this? So I grew up in a very interesting household, a single parent household. Initially the first few years with my mom when I was born, and then the rest of my, single digits into my teenage years I spent with my father. And my parents, my father left his body at the end of, in December of 2014, never understood what I did. He doesn't understand energy healing. He doesn't understand meditation. He doesn't understand practical spirituality. He was brought up Catholic, went to Catholic school. And I would consider him to be a good person who followed a lot of the virtues of Catholicism. But the energy healing world, he never really understood. Which is interesting because my father is extremely... Leanne, Atma Namaste. My father's extremely sensitive, so whenever I would practice Reiki on him, he would immediately feel it and think, well, this is kind of weird. And then when I would do pranic healing on him, without telling him, I'd follow up with him a couple days later and be like, hey, Dad, how you doing? And he goes, I don't know, I've been sleeping really well, I've been feeling really well. I don't know what's changed, nothing's changed. Misty, Atma Namaste, because he was getting pranic healing, right? By the way, the rent-a-car that I'm in is a Dodge Charger, and the thing has ridiculous pickup. My son's going to be super excited about it because it looks like a Batmobile. It's all black on the outside, all black on the inside, and the thing has ridiculous pickup. Handsome. 3 a.m. just popping in to say hi. For those of you guys who do not know, Leanne is in the east coast of Australia. So it's 3 a.m. her time the next day, and right now it's 12 o'clock p.m. Mountain Time, Eastern Time, Eastern Standard Time. So that's my dad. Never really understood what I've been doing for 14 years. And then my mom also doesn't understand what I've been doing for 14 years. She knows I'm a healer. She knows I help people with their problems, but she doesn't understand it, and she doesn't really ask any questions. So talking with my mom more than once a month it's not necessary because my mom doesn't live in a very exciting life. She has her horses. She has 4 horses. She has 4 dogs, and I got to meet her 4 dogs last night. One of them is 100% pit bull, and he's one of the cutest, most lovable little dogs I've ever met. He's about 1.5 years old, and a few months ago, he ended up killing my mom's cat out of nowhere. And she was like completely distraught, having nightmares about it every single day since that happened. She didn't tell me this until yesterday, so now we're gonna have to do healing on her about it. So, which, by the way, another example of how everybody needs healing. It doesn't matter who you are, what stage of life you are, what your economic status is, what your sex is, what your race is. We all need healing because it's fundamental to us as human beings. Megan, I'm an namaste. Good to have you on, girl. So, so spending time with my mother and her stepfather, or my stepfather, her husband, was in Jacksonville for work. So he's usually at the house maybe 3 or 4 times a week, if that. So I didn't get a chance to see him, and I haven't seen him in, I don't know, 10 years or something like that, give or take. But as I was spending time around my mom and spending time around her life situation and bathing my energy in her house, which she doesn't meditate, she doesn't do spiritual practices, she doesn't keep the place energetically clean or physically clean, right? Because that's not what her skill set is, and that's not what she's been trained in. And when you have 4 dogs in the house intermittently throughout the day, and then you have horses that you're dealing with all day long, it's expected to be kind of physically dirty. Smita, and namaste. Monica, and namaste. So I love my mom because without my mother and without my father coming together, I would have no opportunity to spiritually grow and evolve while in a physical body. So I owe my parents a tremendous amount of gratitude, which I do. But with that, I have a level of discernment interacting with my mom. For instance, my mom is a huge anti-Trump person. Like, the words that come out of my mom's mouth when she's referring to Donald Trump is surprising to me. That a 70-year-old woman would be saying these kinds of things out of her mouth. The vitriol, the anger, the criticism, the threats, all of these things, it's very, very surprising. So my mom is coming from a very emotional place. So I have a lot of opposite views around Trump than my mother does. And I have a lot of opposite views around conservatism than my mother does. Right? I was brought up in a democratic, liberal household, but as I became older, as I had more life experience, as I became a business owner, I understand the benefits of being of the conservative mindset and way of being, and how you can be liberal in some things. But it's an interesting question. I've asked other people in my life that talk about being conservative versus being liberal or vice versa. And in general, liberal people are about providing resources to the general populace, making sure everybody has education, making sure everybody has housing, making sure everybody has whatever it is that they need to function in their day-to-day. Nora, namaste, long time, which is fair, right? But the question I ask most liberals is, what have you given of your time, money, and resources to benefit and help another person? And in most cases, Sean, what's up? Abba Namaste. Sophia, Abba Namaste. In most cases, no answer. Or nothing at all. So it's based on theory. It's based on having a good intention. But it's not based on goodwill. Now, for those people who are liberal, who give to charity, who volunteer their time, who give of their knowledge to other people, then they are being congruent. So that's kind of something I was teasing my mom about a while back. Is I said, Mom, it's easy to be liberal with other people's resources. But I said, when it comes to their own resources, people are conservative in general. Does that make sense? So it's easy for me to say, to somebody to go to the gym. Like, hey, you should go to the gym 5 times a week, work out for an hour a day in doing strength training and 30 minutes of cardio. And then restrict your caloric intake and eat these kinds of macronutrients. It's easy to say those things to another person, so the theory makes sense. But if I'm not doing it, then what am I really investing? So it's easy to say you should be liberal with all of these things, but if you're not liberal with your own time, money, and resources, you're being a hypocrite, right? There's a level of incongruency that's going on. Especially your humor. Liberal with the humor. So anyways, so my mom and I have a lot of differences. But because I have awareness, because I have discernment, because I work with people all the time, the same principles are going to apply with my family. So I know if I say this thing, it'll get my mom agitated and excited. If I say this thing, it'll make my mom feel love and joy and happiness, right? So an example was when I first arrived, her 4 dogs were completely trying to figure me out. And they're all worked up, right? You got a pit bull, you got a German shepherd, you got a schnauzer, a miniature schnauzer, and then some labradoodle or something like that. I think it's a labradoodle is her 4th dog. All different ages, like 11, 3, a year and a half, 8, right? So I'm coming into the house with a cool, calm, and collected demeanor, and my mom is all worked up because spiritual energy activates things within people, right? So if that person hasn't done a lot of purification and they get spiritual energy introduced to them, it's going to activate and awaken things that they may not been wanting to deal with. So my mom starts getting super angry and super frustrated at the dogs. And I'm like, Mom, you have to understand, they're just dogs, right? So I realized by me saying those things to her, it's not really helping the situation. So I start doing some energy work. And then within 10 minutes, everybody's calm, including my mom. And I go, when my mom was more open and receptive, I said, Mom, do you realize that the dogs are responding to, or I should say, are reacting to your energy? So the more agitated you are, the more agitated they become. If you're calm, they're calm. And pretty much the entire time I was there, I left this morning, so I was there for, 15 or so hours, spending time with her. The dogs were cool, calm, and collected. They were playful, and she was surprised by how calm they were. Because my mom's calm, because I'm radiating the calming energy from my mom, which then calms down the dogs, and the dogs don't see me as a threat at all, because that's not the world that I live in, right? So I've noticed during the holiday season, and see if you can reflect on this in your own life, I've noticed during the holiday season, Halloween, Thanksgiving, Christmas Eve, New Year's Eve, which is all these are coming up, that when people spend time around their family, they become unconscious. They revert back to old programs of unworthiness, not being good enough, seeking validation, fear of abandonment, which I had to deal with and still work on, fear of abandonment. But if somebody can stay conscious and awake during their time with their family, it can be a beautiful experience. It can be a growing experience. Manny, namaste. Manny, you'll never guess, the guy that I rented this beautiful car from, I'll send you guys pictures on Facebook. This car is like off the chain. His name is Manny. So Sean goes, am I back in New England? No, I'm in Florida. So true. Sorry, I have to go. We'll watch later. Awesome. So let me get some water here, guys. I'm driving to Orlando right now. The plan is to see some clients, check out my old stomping grounds. I used to live in Orlando about 10 years ago, and I lived in Orlando for about 2.5 years. Orlando has a lot of heavy energy for this soul. Manny, I actually had a great visit with my family last week. I love it. That's awesome. So Manny's sharing his experience of spending time with the family during the holidays for Thanksgiving. He had a beautiful visit, right? And that's great. I came from a very odd, dysfunctional family. Like, getting together for holidays, getting together for anniversaries, getting together for anything never really happened in my immediate family. And we were separated, right? My parents divorced a year before I was born, so that should give you an idea of what kind of energies I was born into, right? So the point I'm making is, when we spend time with our family, if we can be conscious, if we can be aware, if we cannot go into old habits and old programs, it can be a beautiful experience. Leah, Adma Namaste. I'll give you an example. An ex-girlfriend of mine, we went to go visit her family in Kansas. And I'd never seen her around her family during the holidays. So we ended up going to see her family in Kansas, and I'm not even kidding you. This is one of the weirdest things I've ever witnessed. I think we were there for 3 days with her family. It literally was like I was spending time with a zombie. Her eyes were constantly glazed over. People were talking to her. She was somewhere else. She was in such a deep, ingrained program around trauma with her family that I literally didn't even know who she was. And I remember pulling off to the side of the road after we went to a local coffee shop in Kansas. And I said, "Are you all right? Like, is something going on with you? Like, what's happening?" And she's like, "What do you mean?" And then I said, "Don't you notice you've been a little different around your family?" And she goes, like the light bulbs were starting to go off in her head. And she goes, "You're right. I'm literally like," and she was like processing it. You could like see the gears in her mind turning. So she's like, "We got to get out of here." So we went back to the house. She said goodbye to her family. We got in the car, and as we drove out of Kansas, from Kansas to Colorado, as soon as we hit Colorado, she was like normal again. And all of the unconscious programs that were running in the background while she was with her family, she became aware of. George, Abba Namaste, which is super powerful. She became aware of them. So again, going back to the quote for today, if you think you're enlightened, spend a week with your family. We weren't even there for a week. We weren't even there for a full 3 days. And she was already going back to old patterns and programs. But again, the family you're born into is the karma that you have to work out with. And then some people will say, "Well, I was adopted," or "My parents abandoned me at a young age," or "My mother abandoned me," or "My father abandoned me at a young age," right? All of this is understandable, but that's still the karma that you as a soul wanted to neutralize, or experiences that you wanted to have. So Adriana says something here. Hold on. I'm driving on a road I normally don't drive on, in a car I normally don't drive in. So, interesting effects. What can people do who don't know energy healing? How can they become more conscious? Which goes back to awareness. So I like, Adriana asked a very good question. Diana, I'm a namaste. She asked a very good question. She goes, what can people do without knowing energy healing? That would be similar to asking somebody, how can somebody do the breaststroke in the pool without knowing how to swim? Like, what? The point is, the reason we share these tools about energy healing, meditation, and practical spirituality is because they are universal, because they're extremely powerful, because they're very effective. So if somebody doesn't have other kinds of training, it's not going to help them move their lives forward, because everything is energy and everything is practical spirituality at its core, right? Because we're all moving closer to God, some of us faster than others, right? So what could somebody do without learning energy healing? Well, first, I would recommend that they learn energy healing. Learn about the aura, learn about the chakras, learn about karma, learn about the different principles that Grandmaster Cho Kuk Sui talks about. That would be what I first recommend, if people are open and receptive. Because how can you practice awareness of another person's thoughts and feelings if you don't have awareness of your own thoughts and feelings. And the way to develop awareness of your thoughts and your feelings is to practice stillness. How do you have stillness? Chris, namaste. I went to Florida 2 weeks later, my man. How was your trip? So without practicing, so you have to practice stillness. In order to practice stillness, you do a meditation practice. So again, goes back to energy healing, meditation, and practical spirituality. So when I was spending time with my mom, I was constantly being aware. What am I thinking right now? What am I feeling right now? What is my mom thinking right now? What is my mom feeling right now? And to be honest, when I got there, the first 6 hours that I was in her house was emotionally, physically, and mentally exhausting. You're like, well, wait a minute, how can it be all of those things if you are so aware, if you're an energy healer? Because karma is being neutralized within my system. I'm having to be extra aware. It's like going into my mom's house was being like covered in a dark, wet, fuzzy blanket that was impeding my ability to breathe and to expand and to open up. So I had to be more conscious, more aware, and I had to be willful of being loving. I had to be willful of practicing awareness. Constantly vigilant. Because it's like being in a dark place. If you've ever seen the movie with... you guys should watch this movie. If you've never seen it, I highly recommend it. It's called What Dreams May Come. What Dreams May Come. And it's with Robin Williams. It's an excellent movie. And the director of this movie studied Theosophy, which is a spiritual school about over 100 years old that some of the greatest spiritual teachers of the 19th and 20th century have come out of. So... in the movie, What Dreams May Come, his wife ends up committing suicide. I'm not going to ruin the movie for you. I still want you to see it. His wife ends up committing suicide. He goes into the underworld. He goes into hell, the metaphorical purgatory where his wife is being held, to get her out of there. And the guy, his mentor, his guide, was telling him, you cannot spend a lot of time there because her world will become your world and you'll be trapped down in hell or purgatory with her. So when he's there trying to convince her, cajole her, persuade her, enlighten her to come out of that darkness, to come out of the hell, as he's doing it, he's starting to merge with the darkness. He's starting to merge with the hell. Very powerful stuff. So he's losing himself. So that's what happened. What was happening with me, that I had to be constantly vigilant. That's what definitely happened with my girlfriend at the time when we were visiting her family in Kansas. She was losing consciousness. She was reverting to old ways of being. So... And I have clients that have shared with me visitations they have with family during the holidays, that they go, all this inner work that I've been doing, I'm able to handle my family better and be present with my family better, but things still come up in insecurities, anger, frustration, impatience. Again, it's not a bad thing. It simply gives you a feedback mechanism of, aha, I still have to work on this. I still have to work on this. I still have to work on this. So when I was spending time with my mom, I was thinking about, well, in this moment, what can I spend more time working on? And nothing came to my awareness because I was just being with my mom. My heart was open. My crown was open. I was listening to her. I was asking questions. I wasn't judging her. I wasn't criticizing her. I wasn't telling her what she needed to do, how she needs to show up, any of that, because I know my mom well enough, and I know she's not open or receptive to it. Hugo, Atma Namaste, homeboy. Good to have you on. You dancing machine. Always an inspiration. So, now, tomorrow I'm going to be connecting with my son, who I have not seen in a while. And so that'll stir up other things that are deep within my subconscious mind that I'm going to do my best to be aware of, work through, so I can be in a loving, present space for my son. So we have plans on doing some ice skating. We might drive down to the Florida Keys. I've never been. He's never been. So I'm really looking forward to that. It's going to be a good time. That being said, goes back to our original quote for today. If you think you're enlightened, go spend a week with your family. Because in that time, Sarah, namaste, in that time, you have realizations. You're like, I still seem to beat myself up. Need to work on that. I still beat up people in my family. Need to work on that. I haven't forgiven myself about that incident. Need to work on that. I haven't forgiven my parents about that incident. Need to work on it. Right? All of your little programs will start coming up around the holidays because you're spending a lot of time with your family. And as one of the Master Pranic Healers reminded me of many years ago, he says the ultimate lubricant, Shey Atma Namaste, the ultimate lubricant in any relationship is love. So the closer you are to someone, your spouse, your intimate partner, the closer you are to someone, the more friction there is between your thoughts, your feelings, your ideas, your concepts, beliefs, your auras. There's more friction. The ultimate lubricant to that friction is love. So if the heart is open, if you're in a loving, tender, kind, sweet space, you'll be able to transmute the lower negative vibrations, the lower negative energies that will come up as you're interacting with friends and family. So, there's always a delay of 10 to 15 seconds on Facebook, but feel free to throw in your questions, your comments. I want to appreciate each and every one of you for sharing your energy today, for asking questions. Sorry I haven't been making as much eye contact towards the camera to look at all of your beautiful faces. But if I did that, I would be crashing into someone in front of me, to the left of me, behind me, or to the right of me. So I want to be as present as I can be on the road. But I also still want to be able to get in the live streams that we've committed to doing each. Woo! See? See what happens when you pick it up? You gas it a little bit? I remember yesterday I was going 100 miles an hour in Tampa. 100 miles an hour in Tampa. And I barely had my foot on the accelerator in the car because this baby's got some pickup. So, if you're in need of healing around the holidays and or after the holidays, feel free to go to christianarlong.com/services, christianarlong.com/services, and schedule a distant pranic healing session with me. We can definitely transform your life. We can give you greater insight and awareness as to why you have a sticking point, what the sticking point is, and then how we can help you remove it through pranic healing methodologies and practices. So again, christianarlong.com/services. The sun is gradually coming out here. I thought Florida was known as the sunshine state. I'm not seeing a lot of sun right now. It was raining super hard yesterday. It was like couldn't see maybe 10 feet in front of you on the highway. It was a torrential downpour from leaving Tampa to driving to my mom's place, and she lives in McAlpin, which is literally in the middle of nowhere. If you've ever been to McAlpin, Florida, or even heard of it, you'll know what I'm talking about. Adriana, just keep driving. No more questions. Yeah, but I saw that comment. Still takes the same amount of effort to look at the comment as it does a question. But that's it, guys. Lots of light, love, and power to you. I'll probably do a live stream when I'm with my son at some point this week. I'm heading back to Colorado on Friday, so I'll be back in my home state. I wasn't born there, but I consider it my home state. I'll be back in Colorado Friday early evening. And that's it. So this is Christian Arlong, Life Enhancement Consultant, giving you a big and beautiful shout out. Lots of light, love, and power from God and my teacher, Grandmaster Choa Kuk Sui, into each and every one of your lives. And if you have any questions, feel free to direct message me go to my website or email me at christianrlong@gmail.com. Arvith, you missed it. You're going to have to watch the replay. Love you guys. Bye.